What up, friends? Welcome to the kitchen. I'm in Stafford, Virginia, and I promised a risotto recipe, and that's what we're going to cook. I'm in my brother-in-law's kitchen, and it's a much better kitchen than mine. It's vast and open and wide and built for commercial cooking, and this is what I like, right? All right, so sorry for the pause in videos, but took a big project, undertaken a big project doing my master bath down at my house at the coast, and I spent a big week and a half on that, which is not done yet, but still working on it. But didn't have much chance to make videos. Ate a lot of to-go food. But so tonight we're going to cook. I've got ribs going in the oven right now. That's a whole other video, but tonight we're going to make risotto. I promised a crimson risotto. That's what we're going to make. So risotto, like bread or anything that takes a long time to cook, it's a battle of patience. And with risotto, what you have to do is, and you'll see as we get started on the cook, is that you have to take your time. You can't run it too hot. You run it on a nice medium heat, and you just let the risotto noodles come into their own, and let them cook and let them get to a point where you like them. You know, risotto could be, you might like your risotto al dente, you might like your risotto cooked, but nonetheless, it takes a good 40 to 45 minutes, and you have to be on it, and you have to be patient, and that's the key to risotto. Patience is the key to risotto. So don't be afraid of risotto, because there's nothing scary about it. So you got some arborio, some basically risotto rice, which you can get at the grocery store, fine. Fine Chardonnay, buttery Chardonnay is going to go in there. An onion, some garlic cloves, some Parmesan cheese, and my sister-in-law, I happen to be lucky to be here because my sister-in-law makes her own broth. So I have some of her special chicken bone broth, which is excellent and will make an excellent risotto. The main ingredient to make it a crimson risotto is right here, and this is the beets. And I love beets. I actually got introduced to them in 2008. I didn't eat them my whole life, and someone in Arlington, Washington State, as a matter of fact, introduced me to beets. But the beets make the crimson risotto. I'll go into more detail on how to make and how to cook the beets. To prepare the beets, simply cut the tops off, cut any root off, wash them, put them in water, and let them simmer as long as it takes, probably about an hour, till they're fork tender. Okay, when the beets are ready and you can pierce them with a fork, nice and soft, I let mine cool down, and then I just pretty much set them under some cold water. Alright, so you can see the cool waters coming down over top of the beets. Now I can get my hand in there, and pretty much the skin just comes right off. Alright, once you get your beets peeled, you've cooked them. You've cooked them for probably an hour and a half, simmered them, steeped them, as my grandmother would say, and you've got the skin off. You run cold water in the pan, and now you just grab the beet and the skin peels right off of it. So you're going to want to just take a little trim off here, off the front, a little trim off the back, and then you're going to want to cut it in about 1/4 inch slices, and then take those 1/4 inch slices and turn them into 1/4 inch pieces. And it cuts all very well, and you get to try a piece if you want. So get all your beets trimmed and cut like that, get them in a pile and set them aside. All right, let's get started. A little bit of olive oil. Our chopped onions. Let those start to sweat off. sure my brother-in-law has one of those fancy scraping tools here, but I can't tell you I know where it is. All right, my onions are sweated down, about 3.5, 4 minutes. I'm gonna put my garlic in, give it about a minute, and then I'm gonna throw a little risotto in there and try and brown the risotto off. All right, it's been about another 2 or 3 minutes. Now I'm gonna brown my risotto. I have about 1.5 cups of risotto in here. Mix it in with the onions. Turn the heat up just a touch, just to brown the risotto off. All right, after 2 or 3 minutes, giving the onions and the garlic and the risotto a little browning, not too much, we're going to take a little white wine, add some loving goodness. Mix that in. I'm going to sweat that off. What are you looking in my camera? Now I'm ready for Aunt Vicky's special bone broth. This is Vicky, right here. It's recording, you just can't tell. And Vicky makes some fine bone broth. So we're going to burn off this alcohol in this risotto. And we're going to do a little dance with some bone broth. Homemade, and we'll have a future video on homemade bone broth, but for now you can use chicken stock or chicken broth, whatever you choose. Now here's the key with risotto: not too much, and just give it a chance to work in. Chicken stock would work just fine in this application. You want it to be a slight simmer, and this is where patience kicks in. Patience pays. For those of you who've been to the Keys, patience pays. 3 minutes until a passing zone. Just let it slowly cook. All right, just a slow simmer. Just keep simmering. This is where the patience comes in. Risotto equals patience. Just keep stirring, and as it dries up, add more broth. As it dries up, add more broth, and you'll see the risotto pieces start to swell up, and eventually they'll get tender, but it's going to be a while. Probably up to 30 minutes, and adding another, at least a box of chicken broth. At about 4 minutes, you can see I'm starting to get kind of dry here, so I'm going to add more of my broth. And the key is little bits at a time. And keep stirring and keep washing. And here we are about 4 minutes later. I'm getting a little dry again. You can see the risotto starting to swell up. That's a good thing, as it absorbs all the moisture. I'm going to come back at it with more stock because it's not even close, and we'll keep stirring. Here we find us about another 5 minutes later. We're drying up again. Risotto's swelling even more, and we reload with a little chicken broth. Keep stirring. we're probably at this point 10 minutes out. All right, here we are about 5 minutes later. I've added a little more broth in there. The rice is puffing up. At this point, you probably need to start testing it. Just grab a fork, grab a couple pieces, put it in your mouth, and if it's al dente, then add a little more broth and keep going. If it's where you think you might like it, then it's time to start adding the Parmesan cheese and the butter, and we'll get into that next. Okay, at some point, you taste the risotto, and it's where you want it. And that is where I want it, to the perfect tenderness. Now, you go for the finish. Turn the stove down a little bit. Come at it with about 5 pads of butter. Work the butter in. Now, Aunt Vicky's chicken broth had some really great fat in it, so I went a little light on the butter, but I would say somewhere between 6 and 8 pads of butter. Get that working good. Then come at it with your Parmesan cheese, probably around 3/4 to a cup. And finish. Unfortunately, my Parmesan doesn't want to finish. Oops. Get that working good. The fat and the Parmesan working good, falling in love with each other. And here is the secret ingredient. This is what makes crimson risotto crimson. Take your beets. I talked about flashing these beets off earlier. Decided not to because there's such good flavor in this risotto already. I just cut the beets, put them in here. Then take the other end of the stick of the spoon. Get a nice swirl going. And there you have crimson risotto. I strongly recommend that you try it. Beets, I thought, were the nastiest things in the world until I tried them in about 2008. And now I find them to be one of the greatest vegetables I've ever eaten. Is it a vegetable? I don't know. Who knows what it is? Crimson risotto. Hope you try it. Risotto. Nothing scary about it. Just takes time and patience. Hope you liked the video. If you would, please subscribe and like the video. I'd appreciate it a lot. Got a good Portuguese sweetbread recipe coming up later today. My sister-in-law and I are going to make it. And until then, we'll see you. Again, please like and subscribe.